Morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about transformative volunteering, which is a concept that our company Realize Worth espouses. But first, I want to tell a story. This is a place just northeast of Toronto called the Rouge Valley. Has anybody ever been to the Rouge Valley? So, let's say company X is doing an employee volunteering event, and I'm in the elevator, I'm walking up to my office, and Bob is in the elevator with me, and Bob catches me, and I'm kind of caught off guard because I haven't had my morning coffee, and Bob's like, hey, you're going to come to the Rouge Valley on the weekend and plant some trees with the company, right? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. I get to my desk, I immediately regret it. I was like, oh man, that was weak, so fine, I'll do it. Bob asked me, I kind of like Bob, whatever. So Saturday morning comes along, I wake up, I got to get up early. I had a good Friday night. I really don't want to get up and drive all the way up to northeast Toronto to go to the Rouge Valley, plant some trees with people I work with every day. But I told Bob I would do it, so I'm going to do it and I'll go. So I go, on the way up, I stop at Starbucks, I pick up a coffee, I'm kind of taking my time. And I get there and I'm a bit late. I see some people I know, I don't really know them, but I see the t-shirts with our company logo on it. They give me the t-shirt and someone hands me a shovel and I'm kind of looking around and I start digging and I plant some trees. I see Bob off in the distance, so yeah, hey, Bob's here too. So I do it for a couple hours, not a bad day, it was okay, met some people, got some stuff done, and at the end of the time I was like, you know what, I gotta run because I gotta have lunch and I gotta get out of here, so I'll just leave my shovel here, I'll just wave to Bob, thanks very much, appreciate the time, and I'm off, and I carry on with my weekend. That is a very typical transactional type of employee volunteering. The company believes they're doing good. They are mobilizing people out in the workforce. But as you can tell by this example, there's not a lot of meaning in it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how we can generate some more meaning out of these types of volunteer experiences and how they benefit each and every one of you. But the first question is, why would a company want to do this? Companies are not in the business of benevolence. They're not in the business of sending their employees away from their work to go out and do good in the community. It's great that they want to do it, but why would a company do it? Well, it turns out some smarter people than us have researched this and discovered some really interesting statistics. Number one, from an employee engagement standpoint, 87% of employees who volunteered with their company reported an improved perception of their employer. Number two, better business results. This is the biggest study of its kind. It's a woman from the University of Georgia, Jessica Rodell, and she found that employees who volunteered, they ended up working harder, they were more willing to help their colleagues, they talked positively about their companies, and they were less likely to waste time. They just tend to be better people. Building employee skills. 66% of employee volunteers saw that noticeable improvement in their communication skills. We saw improvements in negotiating skills, in team working, in leadership skills. People who go out in the community gain these skills and bring them back to the company. And lastly, health and wellness. So for people that volunteered in the last 12 months, 74% said they felt healthier, 94% said it improved their mood, and 78% saw lower stress levels. So it turns out that there is an ROI of employee volunteering. In fact, our company did a study of 5 companies in Canada. We surveyed more than 5,000 people, and we looked at the level of participation rates in the company's volunteering program and their reported engagement levels. And we saw a much higher engagement level for those that reported. So some would say, well, these are do-gooders anyway, so aren't they just do-gooders and then they're just good people in the office, so isn't it just one or the other? In fact, HP, the big company HP, has been studying the exact same survey for 10 years, and they have found the link to be causal. The people that go out and volunteer with their employees, their colleagues, actually are more engaged with the company. And it's because of a thing called effective commitment, which I'm going to get into right here. But it turns out how you volunteer matters. And this is what I wanted to talk about, this concept around transformative volunteering. There are 4 parts to that. But first is, what is it against? Now, the story I told about the Rouge Valley is very typical of what we call a transactional volunteering experience. It's about being productive. It's about being efficient. It's about making a difference, getting something done. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not good enough. And what we talk about is that in addition to making a difference in the community and getting something done, that the real impact of volunteering is focusing on the change that happens to the individual volunteer and the change that may happen to them as a result of this experience. And what ends up happening is this change in perspective. So another good example of transactional versus transformative. Most volunteering, let's say you go to a meal program and you serve a bowl of soup to someone. It's great. That person is appreciated and that person does not go hungry that day. But you've done nothing to solve hunger. And what will solve hunger is putting yourself in the story and putting yourself in a position to realize, you know what, there's something more here than me just handing a bowl of soup to this person. There's something more that I can do. And you start to become intrinsically motivated to want to get more involved. And over time, you become more involved at your highest level of contribution to help solve hunger. You multiply that out by millions of people who have these experiences, and they, together, can make a real impact. So these are the 4 things. Get your pens ready. Number 1 is motivation. We are competing against every single thing that's in a person's life when we ask them to volunteer. Number 1 reason people don't volunteer, I don't have any time. So we combat that through motivation. What's in it for the individual employee? How do you start to incorporate all of the things that matter to that employee by including it so that they can go out and volunteer? Oh, well, you know, my boss needs to see me there. All right, the boss is coming. Yeah, I'm kind of busy. I got 4 kids on the weekend. Hey, you know what? We're doing volunteering with kids on the weekend. All these types of things so that it makes it very difficult for them to say no. It actually hits the value bundle that they're looking for. Now, when you're volunteering, there are some things that we always do. And these are universal concepts. The first is what we call a brief. But when you go out and you volunteer, you need to understand who you're benefiting and why. And you need to understand that the task that you are participating in is significant and is actually leading to help. So a brief and bringing people together does that. Secondly, we have this concept called the journey of the volunteer. Every volunteer is different. Some people are tourists. Hey, you go to Mexico, you go to the all-inclusive resort. Hey, it was great. It was a week off. We had a good party. It was fun. That's it. That's all I need. Most volunteers are tourists. They just need a good experience. Then you got people who are travelers. These are people who can support you. They've been to Mexico a few times. They stay in the Airbnbs now. They don't go to the tourist stuff. They can help and they can support. And then the last one is our guides. And we build our entire program on the 5% of people in your company who are the most hardcore, passionate, community-oriented people, and put them through this development program so that they too have the tools to lead the tourists and the travelers. So identifying who these people are. And then the last part is what we call a debrief. This is really important, and it can actually be applied to many things in your life, and it's called critical reflection. And it's asking yourself who you were in that time. So I'm going to go back to the story, and then I'll wrap up. So let's take this story again and incorporate some of these transformative volunteering principles. So I'm in the elevator, I'm kind of coming into work, haven't had a coffee yet. I see Bob in the elevator. Bob's like, hey, you want to come to the tree planting? I'm like, oh God, okay, yeah, fine. I say yes, I immediately regret it. I come back to my desk and I'm like, what am I going to do? I wake up Saturday morning, kind of hungover. Friday night was a good time. I'm like, I don't want to go to this volunteering thing, but I end up going. I drive up, I stop at Starbucks on the way. I get there, I'm a bit late, but people are surrounded around this one big tree. And it looks like they're having a bit of a meeting. So I go in, and they're like, hey, come on in, Corey. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. And we just want to tell you that if, you see that line of houses just over the horizon there, that's where the development stops. This is the Rouge Valley. You guys are planting trees in a place that is absolutely important to the vitality of this region and for the future of your kids and your grandkids. And this is an incredible moment for you to support that so that that line of houses and development stays. So grab your shovels, go and do that. So I grab my shovel and I start doing the things for the trees, and I'm like, you know what, I never realized that. Like, tree planting is actually kind of important, and it's fun. This is kind of cool, and maybe my grandkids are gonna be here. Wow, this is pretty cool. So then we come back, we have a big meeting afterwards. Bob brings us all together, and Bob says, what'd you guys experience? And somebody puts up their hand and said, I never thought that nature so close to the city is so important. Someone else says, yeah, my kids and grandkids are gonna play here. I thought that was pretty cool that they could, surround themselves around a tree like this too. And we all kind of left. And then I went home and I was like, you know what? Volunteering's pretty amazing. Tree planting's pretty amazing. My company is pretty amazing for letting me feel this way. So that's the kind of experience we're after. And what you're looking for is that sense of effective commitment, that emotional bond that comes from one of these experiences where your employees come to you and have this type of feeling where they're realizing their highest value and their highest worth. So thank you very much.